Now, a new NBC News poll finding a whopping 74% of voters say the country is headed in the wrong direction. The same poll finding 58% believe the country's best days are in the rearview mirror. And more than half of Americans, 55%, are not happy with President Biden's job performance. Joining the conversation all morning long, Fox Business's Dagen McDowell, columnist and Fox News contributor Liz Peek, and Michael Lee Strategy founder Mike Lee. All right, Dagen, here we go. 77 days until the midterms. Is this the big D for disaster if you're a Democrat?
Potentially, because Joe Biden, if you look back when Joe Biden took office, at the end of 2020, inflation was running at 1.4%. That was inflation rate, and the economy was growing at 4.5%. And Joe Biden has done in about a year and a half what it took 7 or 8 years for both LBJ and Richard Nixon and their respective Federal Reserve chiefs to do to this country. And it's just been such a rapid turnaround that if people vote with their wallets and their pocketbooks and based on their financial situation, this will be a red wave. But there's a lot playing into it, including crime. But again, you can blame that on the big city liberals as well.
Plenty of blame to go around in this city, Dagen, as you and I talk about all the time. You know, Liz Peek, this poll, too, that the best years are behind us, 58%. And then it basically looks to me, if you look at these numbers, that basically that the country is saying that they are unhappy, that the Democrats are not in touch, and that President Biden does not understand what's happening in their lives.
Well, I think you've seen that practically from day one. What is Joe Biden really campaigning on? What is his Inflation Reduction Act focused on? It's focused on climate change, which doesn't even make it into the top 11 major concerns of Americans. Americans are concerned about inflation, which, yes, has tempered slightly, but this bill is certainly not going to make it any better. Joe Biden's about to hit the trail and go explain to Americans why we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars more on issues that they don't care about. Meanwhile, Dagen's completely right. The economy's in recession. Inflation is making basically real wages going down. Our border is wide open. There are just so many things that are not being addressed and that this administration continues to lie about or completely ignore. You know, consumer sentiment has been in the basement, like profoundly, epically low levels for months. So these polls are really not shocking.
Actually, you know, on Friday, Liz, we're going to get the University of Michigan consumer sentiment for August. We're looking at 55.2, which is, I mean, that tells you that half of the country is barely even somewhat positive about where we're going. Mike Lee, real quick here. The other thing about this poll I found interesting, 61% say they are so steamed they'd be willing to pick up a protest sign and march around the country. 61% of Americans are so fed up and frustrated they want to pick up a sign and go march in the streets.
My big takeaway from this poll is in response to a lot of the other polls saying that the midterms are somewhat tightening. There's historically been a response bias in the summer, meaning Republicans don't respond to polls during the summer months. So a month from now, when we see the generic congressional ballot move from D+1 or R+1 to R+4 or 5, and some of these Senate races where Dr. Oz is supposedly down 15 points and Herschel Walker's losing by massive margins, those aren't widening out. What you're going to actually see is the reality of the numbers. And when you have a wrong track at the highest levels it's ever been at, how are Democrats going to win in close races? So you look specifically at Arizona, where Joe Biden's approval rating is somewhere in the mid to low 30s. How on earth can Mark Kelly hold on to his seat? And I think a lot of political pundits out there are deluding themselves from reality that with poll numbers this low, to think that the Democrats can hold on to the Senate or not face a massive wave in the House is very much delusional.
Well, and we'll see how involved Mitch McConnell gets with these Senate races come November. We're going to talk about that later in the show.